Good evening, and it is good to be back on the American Soccer TV Thursday night podcast, or ASTV, as the cool kids call it. Trevor's got an echo, Brian's got a delay, and I'm not wearing any pants, so let's get going with this thing. Just as it always is with the Thursday night show. So let's just have a quick look at what we're going to talk about tonight. I think we're going to talk about the refs. Are they getting too arrogant in England? We'll have a little chat about that in a second. Where will Everton finish this season? They already seem to be Sean Dyching their way down the table. Newcastle next. I saw that there's an Amazon or a Hulu or Apple TV show with their name on it. Will they be the next team that are jinxed by such a farrago? I've used that word twice now. Let's get that out of the way. And then the first threshold question of the season. So just let's start with saying, Brian, how are you?
Doing great. Good to see you back, Macka.
It's never good to see me back. It's good to see my back, because it usually means I'm walking away from you. Trevor, how are you?
Hanging in there,
discombobulated, apparently.
I'm a bit discombobulated, and the fact that I had to search beforehand to make sure I spelled that correctly, and I'm still not sure I did. But either way, it's been one of those days. And with
it's got a bob in it.
So yeah.
So let's start off with. I'm sure everybody in the universe has talked about, especially the Liverpool universe, has talked about the McAllister red card that never really was. A ridiculous decision in the moment. Definitely a hard yellow in a yellow card and a good talking to at the time. Definitely not a red card, even from my first impression. The replays confirmed it, and then the referees board confirmed it again. So no suspension from McAllister, which is great because we get him this weekend. But then, more controversy with red cards in other games. And then we see in one of the English tabloids that there's almost like a rock and roll rider now for the referees, that they have to have certain types of foods and massages and blow dryers for all those ball referees, buffers for their heads. And, the Queen of Denmark fluffing their toes or something like that. I mean, are referees getting too arrogant? Are they getting too big for their boots, in England at least? And should we be going back to the days of the referee should be seen and not heard, Trevor?
Yeah, and I heard some of that stuff on the rider on the radio today. Some of the things that they are allowed to eat beforehand but not afterwards, and the things that is expected of them from each stadium. Get the fuck out of here. I'm sorry, I'm coming in hot. It's been one of those days. I've gone through a perpetual detour my entire ride home. Yeah, these refs, you are getting 0 from me this evening. Howard Webb putting this out there in a statement with a straight face is laughable. Be like, oh, well, you need to provide them sushi if you're on the South Coast. No, you need to provide them with a place to not get pelted with batteries. Shut up. Once you get better, once your standard reaches the point where like Bulgarian refs aren't laughing at you, then you can ask for sushi. Then we can talk about you getting granola bars before the match.
Brian, I saw we always talk about refereeing in England being like a boys' club, a jobs for the boys kind of thing. But it appears that all of these demands have come from on the advice of a Manchester United doctor. And as we know, Howard Webb is the Manchester United ref in chief. Is this yet another example of the jobs for the boys culture?
Absolutely. I mean, what do you think Howard Webb came there for? Right there was to cover the back of his boys. I mean, he's the entire officially committee right there is basically put on by covering each other's back. I mean, how many calls have we had this past season? Already this season that have been questionable. I mean, I've seen 2 red cards that were not called in the box. I mean, I've seen a red card that shouldn't be a red card. I mean, it's saw Pickford go there. Going and charging and smacking somebody in the face, basically, not get a red card. So yeah, I mean, I can go on and on and on. I mean, but yeah, they're just covering each other's ass. I mean, that's all it is.
Alan said that they'll be demanding pedicures next, and I have it on good authority that Alan knows where the best pedicure places are, so he might be onto something there. But yes, I mean, we're looking at decisions that are not consistent, and you can expect an inconsistency of decision making, maybe at the lower levels, maybe division whatever it is, League Two now, or the National League, maybe League One. But the Premier League is supposed to be the best league in the world. We kind of expect a better quality of refereeing, and maybe not let your corruption be so transparent and obvious at this level. What do you think, Trevor?
Yeah, and I can see in a lot of instances, like the guy that refed our match this past weekend, it was his 9th Premier League match, I believe. Or something. He's in single digits. And to come with a decision like the McAllister red card, come with a decision like that, and then have it sent up, and then nobody thought, and yeah, everybody's like, oh, it's Paul Tierney, so you're not going to get any love there anyways. But that it's something that just needs to be fixed across the board. Whether you have to have a VAR team that is not part of the regular referee rotation. If you need to separate and standardize that, cool. But I'm trying to like just spitball answers on the fly. These are people that are being paid millions of dollars a year to do this, and are just going, well, it's okay, so just go with it. That doesn't work anymore.
Brian, let me be a bit radical and political here, and very, very left wing. The players and the managers are clearly unhappy with how the refereeing is going in England. Is it possible that the only way to solve it is to go on some sort of unheard of players' strike to get rid of Howard Webb and all of his cronies?
I would say it in a way, but I bet you that would never happen right there, because obviously right there, Manchester United is not going to go to oust a Manchester United supporter. So we all know that's not going to happen. But I mean, yeah, I mean, what kind of like what Trevor was saying right there, there needs to be like out of the rotation officials, and more than one guy actually making that call. It's a single point of failure. You should have at least 2 or 3 of different people in that VAR booth reviewing all the calls right there at these questionable calls. But of course, some of the calls that we're making were, okay, so we have an offside that's going to take what, 6 minutes to go there to figure out whether he was offside by the quarter of his pinky, versus we have somebody that won't even look at a foul that's called a red card. It's not even a red card. So I mean, I could go on for days.
Trevor, if I might be slightly off in my numbers, but I believe Premier League referees have to retire from that level at around 45, 46, 47 or somewhere like that. VAR is not physically demanding, obviously. They sit down and they watch things. Is that possibly a solution would be to use retired referees only for the VAR crew, so they have experience, rather than young referees and referees who are trying to make their name in the game, who maybe are looking to not keep the game flowing, but to make their superiors impressed with them so that they get on the field for the big games?
Yeah, I think that is, and of course you have to be kind of selective with that bunch, because there's a lot of old head refs that are also going to not necessarily want to get like back into the thick of it, but they are so stamped in their old ways where it's going to be the reverse. There's going to be guys that come in with like Vinnie Jones-esque tackles, and they're going to be like, nah, that's fine. But no, nothing seeing here, as the guy is getting airlifted off the field. But yeah, I think if you can strike that happy medium with guys that aren't in the regular rotation, retired refs that are in good standing and have a decent grasp on today's rules, who can go sit in a room in London and get fully catered and have it that and be able to kind of just not be in the rigmarole of the week to week. Oh, if I get this call right, will I get X assignment? I think that's a great idea to kind of just get that sort of carrot away from them.
I haven't caught a lot of soccer over the summer, but I did manage to see a few of the Women's World Cup games, and I thought the approach was a lot more refreshing watching those games, not just from the players, but the refereeing as well was quite solid. Is this specifically an English problem, and is this specifically an English problem brought about by one Howard Webb, Brian?
Yes, absolutely. And to kind of feed off of what Trevor said on there, I think that with this whole committee right there, a retired neutral player, an official, and then another person of a neutral coach or manager pedigree to sit in the VAR to go through to help make these calls. I mean, again, there shouldn't be a single point of failure, as I said earlier. But yeah, I mean, I really think that these officials now, it's corrupt. I mean, it's not. They're trying to make a name for themselves as their ego. Again, they're living a rock and roll lifestyle with sushi and trying to go out there and live the best life. So I mean, why go out there and keep on supporting this? I go back to what you said earlier, Macka. I hope the players do go there and say, enough is enough. I mean, because you got some matches where it gets dangerous and calls aren't good made. Just say that with the term of we're doing with the run of play. But then you also get calls. You get another match right there that there's a whistle, there's a foul blown every 30 seconds. I mean, there's no happy medium at all in the league.
Let me challenge something you said there, Brian, and this is for Trevor as well, because I've seen that idea and that suggestion in the media during the week of having ex-managers and ex-players. But in my observation and experience, players and managers actually quite frequently don't know the laws of the game to the level of the referees, to the level of even low-level referees at the youth level. Do you think that maybe that idea might cause more problems because sometimes they don't understand for example, you hear pundits all the time say, that's a last man back, that's a red card, when actually by the letter of the law, that situation wouldn't be, because there's a lot more criteria involved in that. Do you think for that to happen, we would need to have those players and coaches pass the referee's exam?
I think it's something where there is enough, not necessarily research, but there is avenues where people can go and take those routes necessary to get, I don't know, license or anything that you would need to be part of that contingent. And if you get the right people to do it, if you get ex-players that are in good standing with a lot of not only the management, but throughout the league, from the higher ups to just the referees themselves, would be like, oh, I don't want to throw out a player, but say there's a player that is not necessarily going for like coaching licenses or anything, but they don't want to be out of it entirely. That's something they could do and get like a VAR license, make it its own separate entity, and be like, all right, you have to show competence in these rules, and these rules, because these are the ones that you're going to be looking at every week. And if they want to do that and they can be that voice, I think that's great.
Yeah, go ahead.
I second Trevor, what Trevor said. I mean, right there, if you have like a different cert that goes for VAR versus actually a cert for for a manager badge or for your certification for an official, VAR official should be its own thing right there. We should be open up to having people who've been in the game all their lives right there. To actually still be a part of that process. And I think it would be a great thing. I think that would actually help the game.
Cosy made a good point there of a great quote from Bill Shankly that the problem with referees is they know the rules, but they don't know the game. But the problem with the ex-players and coaches is they know the game, but they don't necessarily know the rules. So maybe if we mix those two together, somewhere in the middle, we'll get a good decision out of it.
Yeah, you got to find that vortex. You got to get into that funnel where everybody knows enough of each.
Well, I think it's a topic we will be talking about next week, I'm sure, and the week after, and every other week for the rest of the season until
with like 12 minutes of stoppage time. We're going to be talking about this next week.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about this next week until Howard Webb gets sucked into his own ego and disappears into a black hole of his own self-importance. So we talked a little bit about Jordan Pickford, so let's go on to our next thing. Where will Everton finish this season? I'm a fan, I will say, of Sean Dyche, just as a coach in general. I don't think his tactics are particularly special or anything like that, but I do like that he gets his teams to play the way he wants them to play, which is a good sign for an effective coach, if not necessarily a successful one. But they're not off to the greatest start. So as early as it is, they just look as bad as they finished last season, don't they, Brian?
They do look bad, but unfortunately, right there, I think there are worse teams in the league than they are, even though where they're at. Go with Luton Town, go with Sheffield United, and go with Wolves. I think those three right there. So unfortunately, I think we're having another fucking year that's finishing 16th or 17th, because I don't see those teams right there getting a better points than Everton at the moment. Sadly, I want them to fucking go, but it's not going to happen again.
Trevor, as much as that sense of inevitability, as Brian is describing there about Everton, the thing I think about Wolves, Sheffield United and Luton, because those are the three that everybody is picking, is that we said the same thing last year about Bournemouth, didn't we, at the very early parts of the season, and they managed to put together some sort of a run. Is it possible that Everton cannot outrun that burst that one of those relegation teams usually has for this year? Or is Brian correct? Are we just doomed to being Sisyphus rolling the stone up the hill and then watching it fall back down again on top of us?
Yeah, and as we put last year, Everton are truly the unflushable turd, and it's something where I'm hoping that this is the year that it finally happens, because the Dominic Calvert-Lewin's already hurt. They can't get goals. They've shipped out everybody that scored goals by accident. So I think that's just going to be something where they can't stop anybody, and they just give up enough goals to just finally go down. And you talk about Wolves. They're a team that it was night and day between their match against Man United and the match against Brighton, of a team that looked like it had some fight, and then a team that looked like they quit within a week. So I'm as long as you got Sheffield United and Luton and Wolves there, I don't think we're gonna get rid of Everton just yet. But if Wolves are able to kind of if they're able to find a way to turn like Kwong into a viable goal threat week in, week out, I think they may stand a chance. Whereas Everton, I don't think has anybody that they can mold into a goal scorer as much as they want to try, as long as Calvert-Lewin is just beat up. That's Hee-Chan Wong, you're our only hope.
I think that's probably the line of the show there, right there, Trevor. But Brian, in terms of like Sean Dyche's teams, when he was at Burnley, they weren't the highest scorers, as most of those types of coaches usually aren't, but they were dogged defensively, at least against the bottom teams that they were competing against. Well, Everton are stuck with Jordan Pickford, and I just had a check there to see what age he was. He's 29. So for a keeper, should be coming into his peak. And if this is his peak, He and his club are in a lot of trouble, aren't they?
Oh, they definitely are right there. Definitely are. But the thing is, with there, okay. But you go in there and put Jordan Pickford. You could probably place Jordan Pickford in a couple other different sides in Premiership right now, and he'd still be probably starting. Unfortunately, I mean, he's not the worst keeper in this league by far. But back on with Wolves. If Wolves lose Nunez, they're done. They are more than done right there. But unfortunately, I think that what's going to happen is that Everton's is going to finish 17th.
In terms of the attack, Calvert-Lewin is basically their attack, and it looks like I don't know, but did he break his nose or something?
I didn't check the extent of it. I saw.
I think it was he broke his nose, but it looked like
jumped off with an injury, and I hit a big LOL, and then just kind of tuned out from the rest of it because they were getting their brains beat in. So, yeah, I'm not a big snuff film guy, so I didn't watch the rest of that.
I think it's almost like it's a non-career threatening injury. So something like, I'll just run into this elbow, then I won't have to be part of this till around Christmas. But they don't have any goal threat, they don't have any midfield threat, and their defense is next to nothing. Am I just being overly positive here and thinking this could be the year because everybody expects it to be Sheffield United, Luton, and Wolves? Give me some hope, guys! Give me some hope!
Hey, I'm just trying to be like
work for the man. Just in the person go like, yo, hook me up one time and just make everything go down. Can you just? I
don't think there's enough candles in the world to light for Everton to be relegated, Trevor, to be fair.
I got a bunch on clearance at Walgreens if you need more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to be so positive will happen right there because reverse polarity right there. That maybe if I say they're finish 17th, they'll finish fucking 20th.
Let me ask a little diversion question. Let's assume they do stay up, but it's yet again another struggle. Is that considered a success for Sean Dyche, or do you think they will ditch him for somebody else after Christmas if they're in that position?
Who?
They'd be Brian.
Who in the right mind would want to come back and would want to manage that? Are they going to go back and find Big Dunk again for like the 80th fucking time right there to go back as being a part-time manager for him for like 5 matches and he gets kicked to the curb? I mean, nobody's going to manage that club anymore. I mean, Dyche is probably like the bottom of the barrel that they could get at the moment, and they can't get any better than this.
See, but if they do that though, they if they had smart marketing people, they could do a tie-in, and they could market Dunkin's Donuts in their crappy stadium, and they'd at least get some money out of it. I mean, it'd be $44.77, but it'd be a little bit more money than they have right now.
Yeah, aren't they also in violation of financial fair play still too?
Yeah, it's donuts. That's why they won't do it. That's $44.77 too much.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's probably what Jordan Pickford is worth as well. So, and that's with the English player tax.
Oh boy! But you know what? I'm sure Luton would take him on a free.
No, I don't think even they would. I don't think even Tranmere Rovers would take him on a free.
Yeah, that's. After I said it, I go. So can I formally just like rewind that and apologize to Luton fans? I go. That's a bit of besmirchment. I'm not a besmircher. I've had a long day. I take it back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like who would want?
I didn't mean it. I'm still mourning the death of my plant. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, who would want a goalkeeper with claims to be a leader who can't even point when it's somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. So let's move on to the next thing, and probably the most important thing for us, Newcastle next. We'll talk about us and them, but I saw that they're on Amazon or Hulu or Apple or one of those things. This is We Are Newcastle, another one of those documentary reality type shows that every single club that seems to have been involved in one does very, very badly during. There was This Is Liverpool, there was the Arsenal one, there was the Sunderland one. It never seemed, and the Spurs went even better. It never seems to work out. So are Newcastle next in line? Will they break the jinx? And if so, are we going to be the ones that start the break? Trevor, what do you think? How's the weekend going to go for us? And how are Newcastle going to look?
I think this is going to be what we collectively thought the Chelsea game was going to be. There's going to be a lot of attacking from both sides in terms of just constant threat on both ends. I don't think their defense can hold up against what we can bring unless they do what Chelsea did in the second half of that game and just brace for impact and then one pass counterattack and pray that Trent decides to take a nap in the middle of the game. That's basically what I think Newcastle's second half strategy is going to be if it's 1-1 like it was against Chelsea. I don't gun to my head, I think this is going to be, and I don't want to do the full prediction, but this is like a 5-goal game in my head, despite Newcastle's defensive prowess.
So a draw, you mean?
Yeah, 2.5 to 2.5.
2.5. Brian, how do you see us going? It's great to have McAllister back. Endo looked like he fit in, if a little bit unsharp in the speed of the Premier League game. We have the attack seems fine and fine. Vettel, Alisson surely can't have the same starting 10 minutes that he did last week. And maybe we'll have something a bit more from Robbo and Van Dijk on that left side. But as Trevor says, it could be a very, very open game, as Liverpool-Newcastle games tend to be. Are we going to get the just rewards for the efforts, or are we going to be sucker punched?
I really think it's because we're both going to cancel each other out. I mean, I said that back on Monday at the Monday podcast. I really call for a 1-1. I think that there is going to be odd opportunities, but I don't think that neither side are going to capitalize on their chances. I think that my worries that there are Endo with pace. I think that that's going to be the decider to see how Trent is able to slot in with this. If he's still going to do this inverted fullback slot that he's doing, but I really think that we're going to wind up having a 1-1 draw.
Alan M agrees with you. I think Trevor, a 5-goal game at 3-2. It could be. I think you could be right. I think there is a chance that we could cancel each other out. I think maybe we'll approach the game thinking that it's going to be an all-out attacking game, and then both teams just kind of nullify each other there in the middle. Or it could be one of those traditional 1990s Newcastle-Liverpool games of defenders. Who are they? Goalkeepers. We don't need those. And like a high-scoring game. But really, you kind of, for us, just as Liverpool fans, and for the season to get going, you kind of would like this game to be one where we win by 2 or 3 clear goals, don't you? In terms of, we have so much hope for this season and for this new team that if it gels, it could be fantastic. So would this be, Brian, the ideal game to get that kind of a scoreline in just for psychological purposes?
Oh, absolutely! It'd be ideal. I think that we would after watching the first match right there, where we had that opening part of the first half, where we were all over Chelsea. I mean, to see us go there and go on from that point. Having a natural number 6 in that slot right there actually will go there does leave over McAllister and Slobozai to actually be able to go there to actually make runs. I mean, it's got a lot of potential for us to go there to put a drubbing on Newcastle. But I say right there, I just still think that we're a little bit incomplete. They're a little bit incomplete, and I think that we're still going to wind up being in this little spot right there with cancel each other out.
Trevor, let's assume, for argument's sake, that Endo has done an amazing amount of work in training and he's gotten the concepts on board quite quickly, and Klopp starts him. McAllister, we know about. He just looked good anyway. I thought it was a good signing when we got him. It was one that I certainly wanted to see get completed. But Jabo, as he is now to be known, he almost seems like he's the secret trick in the Joker in the pack almost, isn't he? I didn't expect him to be quite as good as he showed in the last game, but he really lifted off in the second half, didn't he?
Yeah, and he's a guy that I think is full of confidence from whatever game he's playing, whether it be for internationally, where he's obviously Hungary's not a team that is a world power at this stage, but he goes into it. He's the captain. He's a guy that really carries them through a lot of games that could be a lot worse than they really are. And then you had him at Leipzig, where they were kind of more of like a cup team, where there was always that do or die mentality, and he always really showed up in those games. Whereas in the league, there was kind of that hit or miss. Just the things that I always saw was like he'd really beat up on the bad teams, and when it came to like the big games, he was just okay. I can take him being okay against Newcastle if we have somebody behind him that is going to clean up for all of the times that he gets a bit reckless. And Endo, it was a cameo, but everything that I saw while playing for Japan, because I'm not gonna like break the fourth wall or anything. Didn't watch many Stuttgart games. I'm sorry. Didn't get much Stuttgart in my life. But I saw him play plenty for Japan in the World Cup, and I saw actually a couple times where they played friendlies against the U.S., and he kicked the shit out of our midfield every single time he played them. And it's something where, and I brought this up over the weekend, if you're a non-German becoming a captain of a German side, that speaks volumes about whether or not people respect you, your ability to communicate, and your ability to lead. And if he was able to do that for a team that was battling relegation and was able to kind of just keep that role and play at the high level that he is, I have no qualms about him coming in and being that stopper for us and making sure that Soboslai and McAllister and whoever else becomes that other part of the diamond is able to do whatever the fuck they want.
Yep.
Brian, let's say Alisson in goal, Van Dijk, Kanate, Robbo, Trent at the back, Endo, McAllister, Jabo in the midfield, Gakpo, Salah, and Diaz up front. Where do you see the weak link in that team being?
I hate to say, but I still think the Endo might be a little bit of the weak link because of the pace of the Premiership. I think it's going to take him a little bit of time right there to get used to that pace. But I mean, that's really the biggest weak link I have. I mean, I would have said right there when you said Jota, I would have said that Jota would have been the weak link in that front right there. I think the Gapco right there starting in front right there is a much better choice at this time. I just think that Jota right there over the past 2 matches right there is not the player that we saw in preseason. It kind of goes by the whole thing. You can't judge preseasons right there. I think that he still has a little bit of time to go there to get himself straight.
Trevor, on that, because that's a good point. Do you think Jota is still psychologically, at least, feeling the injuries? He's not as reckless as he used to be. Like, he was your go-to guy for putting a head or a leg in to score that redirecting goal that we all loved so much. But he doesn't seem as hard case these days as he used to be. Do you think he's preserving himself a little bit, or maybe a bit nervous, or is time just catching up with him?
All right, and this is something that we talked at the pub over the weekend. There needs to be a released stigma on people being subs in this day and age. With 5 of them, you can be a quote unquote second stringer and still be an important player. And I think Jota and Nunez. Yeah, Nunez is this huge money signing, and Jota is a guy that has played so many important roles for us. Those guys going at tired legs in the second half is a huge card you can play. Because I think Diaz is a guy that, as much as I love him, when he comes on as a substitute, he always takes like 15 minutes to really just get going. And if you're coming on for 30, that doesn't, you're giving me 15 minutes of dog shit, and I don't care for that. Whereas Jota, the second he comes on, there's that energy there. But if that energy is burnt off by halftime, and then you're going through the paces for 25 minutes in the second half before Jurgen finally yanks you, what good are you doing? I think Jota and Nunez are a perfect pairing to bring on either late when you're chasing a goal or late when you're trying to put a team away. And I think that's teams need closers at this point. I always called James Milner the closer because he was a guy that would come in the 75th or 80th minute. He would always make that tactical foul. He'd take a yellow. He wouldn't give a shit. And he would also make sure that every single set piece was kicked to the right place. He made sure every single pass was – he would be sitting out there like an air traffic controller. You need players like that. And I think that may be Endo's role down the road if they get a more poised for the starting lineup number 6. If he's here for a couple of years and he comes in as that closer, that just end of the game destroyer. Oh, what, you think you're in on goal? Psych, you're dead. That type of deal. I think that would be huge. And if we can get those guys to buy into that role, I think that would be huge for this club. It's just a matter of getting them to be, you're not starting, but that's not a demotion. It's just a change of role.
Brian, let me ask you this before we go on to score predictions, because it's Newcastle. Nunez, we like him a lot when he's on form. He's pretty not as good when he isn't on form. Is he just a Latin American Andy Carroll, or is there more to come from him?
You must have been reading my mind right there talking about Nunez. I was about to bring him up. The problem with Nunez right there is, and with bringing him on as a sub, is he comes on and plays with his own game plan. It's not even really the game plan the rest of the squad's playing on. I mean, he's making his runs aren't right. I mean, he's not connecting with Mo on the left side. Yeah, I mean, you don't know what you get. I mean, it's like I can't say that he's a raw talent for 3 fucking seasons right now, because right now we're almost right now in the second season, and I'm still saying he's raw talent. I mean, eventually you have to hone that talent in, and I think that I just don't know what to do with him. I mean, it's like, okay, do we just go and play him in cup matches right there, down in Eastern, like in Eastern European countries in the Europa League, and just say, okay, we're we're happy to give you a run. But right now in the Premier League, I don't know if I can play him. I mean, even off this last match where he stormed off the pitch right there because he didn't get enough time on to make a difference in that match. What difference is he trying to make? I mean, when he's playing his own match in his own head. I mean, I like him. I think that he has a world of talent. I just don't know where that talent is at the moment.
Let me just nail your colours to the mast here. Score prediction for the weekend, Brian. What do you call it?
1-1.
Trevor, you sticking with your 5 goal?
Oh yeah, I'm stealing Alan's 32 for the good guys.
I gotta go 4-1 for the Mighty Reds. I think that's going to be my prediction. And so just remains for the last thing, the first threshold question of the season, and here is for both of you. Would you rather have itchy testicles but Jordan Pickford's arms, or be Howard Webb's wife, knowing you have to go and do the sexy time with him?
Yeah, I'm going for the itchy balls. I have a lot of old furniture in my house, so I can just go on a nice chair and act like I'm just an animal, and just I bless Howard Webb's wife's heart. That
Poor lady.
Just I wonder what his like vinegar strokes are, if he just goes United as he's done. It's a picture I put in my head already that I immediately regret, but here we are.
So this was Trevor's last episode, because he obviously has to go into some sort of a home now for thinking about Howard Webb and his vinegar strokes. Brian, what do you think? What's your answer?
Hey, Trevor, it could be cops and robbers. I mean, so you could be worse. But no, actually, I'm going to say right there, T-Rex style all the way right there on that. I'm just going
to.
I think we'd all agree with that. We'd all want to be Jordan Pickford's arms and not anything to do with Howard Webb. So it just remains to say thank you to Brian and thank you to very embarrassed Trevor, who's now going to undertake psychological counselling for the rest of his life. And make sure you stick around for the Fantasy Football Show straight after this at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, or whatever that is in the other time zones.
I'm 2-0 in the league.
2-0 in the league for Trevor. That's going to end now with the bad juju you've just brought on yourself now. You're going to be mentally scarred for life. Bad decisions all over.
I'm due to have half my team get injured this week.
We have the morning coffee show tomorrow morning. We have pre-match and post-match this weekend for the game, so stick around for that. Make sure you like and subscribe on the YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or X, the artist formerly known as the Tweety Board. And then join the Discord and get all of the gossip and the craziness, and we can all tease Trevor for his Howard Webb fantasies. So it just remains to be said, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we will see everybody next week. Peace out.